Hello everybody, welcome to Studio Tutorials. If you are going to do anything in Studio, you're going to have to figure out how to navigate around the viewport. When you first open Studio, you're going to have this 12 stud by 12 stud ground space. If you want to change the default setting size, you can do that. If you go to the Edit menu and Preferences, down here there is a ground resize option, so you can click on choose size and enter the values that you want. When you place a brick over the ground space, you will notice that it wants to lock into where the studs would be. If you want to change that, you can turn snap off and change the grid alignment. This one locks into the half studs instead. Or we can go even finer, and this allows you to place the brick wherever you wish. Usually you're going to want to have the snap on and have a coarser grain so that you can lock into your bricks properly. But it is helpful when you're trying to get very fine movements. For instance, if you're placing bricks that normally wouldn't go together, to have the more fine adjustment. Scrolling in and out is fairly simple in Studio. If you use your mouse wheel, you can just go back and forth, or you can use the hotkeys. Control plus brings you in, Control minus brings you out, and Control 0 will fit the whole model into the screen. This is particularly useful when you're dealing with a big model and you want it to be shrunk down in to fit the size of the screen. If you press down on your scroll wheel, the third button of the mouse, you can move around the entire view screen without having to change perspective at all, which is really handy. Your right mouse button will let you spin the viewport around however you wish. This is really handy, especially when you need to get underneath the model and add in bricks, or you can't quite see a certain part, so you need to spin it this way and that way. If you want to select multiple parts, like most programs, you're just going to click and hold the left mouse button and drag it over the objects that you want. You can change the view of your camera angle quite easily. If you click on this little camera here, you can change the perspective. You can also use the hotkeys on the number pad to change it, which is actually much quicker in my mind. And if you want to go back to your regular view, you're going to press the tilde key. And if you don't know which that one is, it's the one with the little squiggle on the top left-hand side of your keyboard. One of the more interesting views is the Orthogonal View, which puts your model in perspective. This will just give you a different view, especially if you're doing large models and you kind of want to get an idea of how it's going to look on the table. And again, we can switch back to our normal camera view by hitting the tilde key. Another interesting feature in Studio is being able to add in multiple viewports. So if you go to the View menu and scroll down to Viewport, Add Viewport, you'll be able to adjust the camera angles in both of these viewports, and then you'll be able to see what is going on the top and bottom. This can be really useful if you're trying to place a brick and it's really tricky to get it in a spot, especially if there isn't a proper connection. That's where this tool would be most useful. To get rid of that viewport, you would simply go to Viewport again and delete Viewport. If you want a larger viewport, you can choose to hide some or all of the panels. Again, go to View, and we have the option to hide the side panel or hide all the panels. And now you have an unobstructed view of your model. To reverse that, click on View again and show all the panels. And lastly, you may want to hide the ground. If you are building underneath the model, sometimes that ground can get a bit annoying. I do this quite a bit. So you will go to View and hide the ground. And now our view is clear, so we can see all around the model without having those dots in our way. You may get disoriented when doing this, and the easiest way to deal with that is if you go to View and Zoom to Fit, then it'll bring your model back into your viewport. Sometimes pieces can go astray, and this kind of thing can happen where you're twisting and turning and you really don't know which way is up at that point. So again, go to Zoom to Fit and it will correct that for you. That was a quick look at how to use the viewport in Studio. I hope you find it useful. I know when I first started using Studio, I found it a bit disorienting. So I hope these few little tips will make it smoother for you to use. Next time I'm going to be talking about how to create and manipulate submodels, so stay tuned for that. Hit the subscribe and bell if you want to get notifications. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Keep dreaming of bricks. Bye-bye.